All right. Good evening, everyone, and thank you so much for joining us at our 2022 Houston/Fort Bend AAPI Candidate Forum. We're so glad that y'all are able to be here and that you're engaged this primary season. We've got a really great slate of candidates. Before we get started, though, I did want to begin with a few housekeeping rules. Please be respectful in the chat. This is a nonpartisan forum, so we did invite candidates from both parties to be here. And this event is really just to make sure that we're able to showcase, the great diversity that we have on our ballot this year and all the wonderful Asian American candidates that we have running this year. And if you have any questions for any candidates, we will be taking Q&A throughout the forum. Please be sure to put in all your questions in the Q&A box below and refrain from using the chat too much or sites to add statements or comments, because we will be checking the Q&A box specifically for questions. And before we get started, I did want to take a moment to go ahead and review the agenda. And so we're going to be starting with some opening remarks by Representative Jean Wu, and then we will be proceeding with the Harris County Forum. We'll take a short break and then proceed to the Fort Bend County Forum. And I want to say a big thank you to the organizations and volunteers that really helped make this event possible. It wouldn't have been done without everyone here's help. So I want to go ahead and thank MGage, OCA Greater Houston, Houston 8020, Wise Up Texas, Asian Pacific Islander American Public Affairs, the Empowering Communities Initiative, ECI, Wuri Juntos, Save Texas, ACDC Texas, Pragati, and One API Vote Texas. And to our amazing volunteer team, we have Dr. Helen Shi, Nilafar Hafizi, Amatullah Contractor, Debbie Chen, Sophia Sheikh, Donna Kim Murphy, Audrey Nath, Chen Liang, Ariel Aranza Mendez, Shabana Murati, Sujata Shukant, and Rosine Calvert, Nimra Shehzad, Megan Sham, and Maria Duran. And now I don't know if I could have, an opening that could be, as I would say fulfilling as this one. So I want to take a second to introduce Representative Jean Wu of House District 137. Representative Wu has served in the Texas House since 2012, and truly he has been a trailblazer for the Asian American community. Representative Wu, personally, I don't think that I would be here if it wasn't for you being in the State House, being a voice for our community, and always standing up for us in more ways than I can count. You have always shown up for us, and we are so grateful, and I can't think of anyone better to help us lead off this forum. So without further ado, I want to pass it over to Representative Wu.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it. And I thank you to all the sponsors who have helped make this possible. Look, for those who haven't met me before, my name is Jean Wu, and I am the sitting state rep for House District 137, which is Southwest Houston, which includes large parts of the Asiatown and Sharpstown area. This is my 5th term, my 10th year in office. I am running for re-election. I am a part of this forum, but as a candidate, but also I have a probably more important role, and that is to be a representative of the Asian American community. And I am very proud to do this and very proud to be here to open this up, because civic engagement with the Asian American community, I think, is one of the most important things that our community is lacking. And I say this to people all the time. Our families, we came here with next to nothing. And we built great lives. We got education, we built businesses, we made money, we built a very comfortable life. But there's something missing. And that something is having our community's issues addressed, being respected, and generally having elected officials, having the government look after what our community needs. And time again, the issue is that we do not participate. And this is starting to change, but it needs to change faster. Asian Americans are the fastest growing demographic in not only the state of Texas, but the entire United States. This has been true for 2 decades now, that Asian Americans, while a smaller proportion of the total population, our population is growing at a rate that could not be compared by any other group. And what's important is this. What we have seen in the past half a decade or so, maybe even decade, is that we are breaking through. We are breaking ceilings. We have had the first Asian American judges be elected. We've had the first, then we had the first Vietnamese American. We had the first Indian judges elected. Over and over again, our community is breaking through. But these things don't happen unless you're engaged. These things don't happen unless we have candidates to run. These candidates can't run if you don't support them. These candidates can't win if you don't go vote. And time again, when we go and approach elected officials from around the state and we ask them for things, we ask them for help. During this last 2 years, we asked people to give a little bit of attention to our community during the rise of anti-Asian hate. And the response from some were very good, but the response from others was very bad. And the reason is because for the most part, they don't care what we want. They don't care what our community thinks, because to them, we're inconsequential. And sometimes, you know, as they say, it's better to be feared than respected. And this is something that our community needs to do. We need to be feared. And we will do that by being engaged. We will do that by voting in every election. Whether you choose to be a Republican or a Democrat, you should go out and vote, because every single vote that comes from the Asian American community, it strengthens our voice. It makes us more powerful as a whole. Whether you're a Democrat, Republican, Independent, or whatever you want, go vote. Go use your voice added to the rest of ours. And together, we will see more ceilings broken. We will see more firsts. And I want to see the day when Asian Americans winning elections is not some unusual thing, but it becomes the norm. And our community is respected and maybe a little bit feared. Thank you so much. And I apologize, I have to get off this because I have to finish making dinner for the rest of my family. But please listen to all the candidates talk, Democrats and Republicans and anybody in between. Listen to them, pick out who you like, and support somebody. Thank you so much. You're still muted.
You're mute.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Representative Wu. I couldn't have said it better myself, and you said it absolutely correctly. We need to give the candidates on this ballot a voice, and we need to strengthen their voice and our own voices by going out and voting. And so I'm going to share my screen again for a quick second because I want to share something very important, which is that early voting is already underway. We are 2 weeks away from the decision being made as to who our nominees are going to be for our parties. And we have to get out and vote because we have to make sure that our voices are heard, that the candidates that we support, that their voices are lifted. And so this coming weekend, starting tomorrow and Sunday, is the only weekend of early voting. So if the weekend is the only time that you have to go out and cast your vote, please do so. As well as in Harris County, President's Day is also open for polling locations. That means you can actually go out and vote on President's Day as well. And so please be sure to cast your vote either this weekend or next week. And if you're not able to, then please be sure to vote by March 1st and turn out the vote. It's not just about taking ourselves to the vote, but making sure that we're calling and texting 10 of our friends and making sure that they're able to make it to the polling locations as well. And just know that the Tuesday, March 1st is also the last day to turn in our mail-in ballots in person. So if you haven't had a chance by March 1st to put it in the mailbox, make sure you go to the elections office and turn it in person so that you have every opportunity to make your voice heard. And now I want to kind of just briefly mention the candidates that we have invited for Harris County. We have an amazing slate of candidates, and we invited every Asian American candidate across the board, all the way from statewide to local candidates. These candidates were not able to make it today. I will not list them out loud. It would take me a while, but I did want to make sure that we recognize them and mention them. And these are our invited Fort Bend candidates. And now, without further ado, I want to hand it over to Dr. Helen Sheet and Regine Calvert to take it away for the rest of this forum. Thank you.
Thank you so much, everyone. And I'm so glad to see all of our lineup of candidates here who are ready to speak. And our first candidate, she is Jeannie Su. She is running as a commissioner of the General Land Office statewide position. Jenny, is Jenny here? Okay, Jenny's here. Thank you so much for making it on time. We know you're busy. So just reiterate, each candidate has 3 minutes for your speech to introduce yourself, answer the question of what this position is about and why you're running and why it is important for the Asian American community. And after that, Regine will be co-moderating and giving you the questions from the audience. And that's for 2 minutes. So each candidate have 5 minutes. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Let me just get my timer set up here. Okay. All right. Can you all hear me?
Yes.
Wonderful.
I know you must be busy in the car.
Yes, I'm at an event right now in Spring Branch in person. So, well, hello, everyone. My name is Jenny Su. I am running for Texas Land Commissioner. I'm coming to you tonight as a fighter, a community organizer, and an activist. I'm a licensed attorney, former teacher, former PTA leader, working mom to 2 public school kids aged 5 and 9. But most importantly, in my recent past, I'm also the founder and leader of Immunize Texas, a statewide grassroots pro-vaccine advocacy organization. And if you've ever dealt with an anti-vaxxer, you'll know that I'm not someone that's afraid of a fight, and I don't give up when things are hard. In terms of the Texas Land Commissioner seat, there are a number of responsibilities that are handled by the Land Commissioner that aren't really related, so I'm just going to start listing them off. Number 1, we are in charge of managing the state lands, dealing with the energy sector, negotiating on behalf of Texas. And what we have the ability to do with that is make sure that Texas gets in front of the climate crisis. We also handle all of the federal disaster relief fund distribution. So for instance, in Houston, we've seen that because of the current leadership, Houstonians have been left out of the distribution and have received $0 after Hurricane Harvey. The General Land Office, they also handle the Alamo and managing the Alamo. As a woman of color, it's very important to me that our history is represented accurately and that people of color are not erased from that history. We can be proud of the Alamo and its symbolism to Texas without erasing people of color. And then the money that is generated by all of those contracts and leases through the GLO, they fund our public education system through the Permanent School Fund, as well as veterans benefits. And when it comes to public education, being again, that former teacher, former PTA leader, and working mom to public school kids, it's very important to me that we continue to fully fund our public schools, as well as being an advocate. I am somebody that will advocate at the Texas State Legislature for an increase in the amount of funds that can go to the Permanent School Fund. And when it comes to veterans benefits, what I've learned is that most veterans are unaware of the benefits that are available to them. So I would engage in a very aggressive outreach campaign to make sure that they are aware of what's there so that they can take advantage of those programs. I also want to talk about diversity. I am the first Asian to run for a non-judicial statewide elected office. I think it's very important that we see representation that looks like us, that can relate to us. I didn't go into my background, but I did grow up the child of working class Korean immigrants, so I can understand people's struggles. It's why my entire approach is to put people first, make sure that they are the priority. So it's for all of those reasons. And of course, I should also say I would be the first woman land commissioner that Texas has ever seen if elected. So it's for all of those reasons that I hope that you will support me in my run, that you will vote for me. And again, my name is Jenny Su, running for Texas Land Commissioner. I look forward to hearing your questions.
Jenny, my name's Regine Calvert. It's so nice to meet you, and thank you for that wonderful presentation. I'm curious, I know you are Korean and a child of immigrants, but and you're from the Austin area, if I'm not mistaken. Is that correct? Okay.
I live there now, yes.
Okay, just share with us what your experience and knowledge is of the Texas Asian community.
So my experience has been that when people in general, especially in rural areas, they assume that if I am an Asian American in Texas, that it's because my parents were wealthy, that they went to Rice University, that they had a wealthy family member that sponsored them to come to this country. So a lot of my campaign has been educating people about the fact that I do not come from that kind of background. I actually grew up without health insurance. I grew up watching my parents lose their business because of weather disasters, which is why the climate crisis is so important to me. So that has been my experience as an Asian American candidate on the campaign trail.
Thank you. We did have one question from the audience. How do you plan to deal with work-life balance?
I am somebody that has worked multiple jobs and juggled many responsibilities for most of my life. So the last 6 years, even while having children, I am, again, the founder and leader of Immunize Texas. I have organized large statewide rallies. I have gathered people from all over the state to become supporters. I have been at the Texas State Capitol. This is how I run my life. This is no different running this campaign. If you've followed me at all on social media, you have seen I have taken this run very seriously. I have traveled to all parts of the state. I have been to West Texas, South Texas, Houston, Dallas, San Antonio, wherever I can go, I will be there. So when you are thinking about what I would do as the next Texas Land Commissioner, you can be assured that I will do this job to the best of my ability and better than honestly any man could do it.
Good for you, Jenny. Thank you so much. It was a pleasure meeting you, and good luck with the rest of your campaign.
Thank you very much for your time.
Okay, so we're so glad to meet with Jenny today, and she's busy because she has a statewide position to go, and she is on the Democratic ballot. Just want to remind everyone, so wherever you are in Texas, you will see her on your Democratic ballot. And thank you, Jenny, and good luck to your campaign. And we now move on to our next candidate, and she is Nam Subramanian. She is running for Texas House State Representative District 147, and her campaign area covers Harris County. So Nam, it's your time.
Thank you so much for having me. My full name is Namratha Subramanian, but I go by Nam. And so thank you so much for hosting this forum. I'm so excited to be here. The reason I'm here is because of my students. I've been a teacher for the past 2 years, and it was during teaching that I felt this sense of urgency that now is a time for a young, bold, progressive perspective like my own in the Texas State Legislature. It was actually during teaching a civics lesson to my students where they had to write a letter to their local state representative about issues that matter to them, that one of my students asked me, "Hey, Ms. Nam, have you ever thought about running for office?" And it made me realize that, even though I'm young, I'm 23 years old, and even though I'm new to the political scene, that I'm the perfect candidate for this seat, especially being in a district that is the future of Texas. We live in a majority minority district in District 147, and the Asian population is growing, like Representative Wu said. More than 10% of our district now is Asian, but only 6% actually show up to vote. And that's, again, I want to emphasize everything and second everything that Representative Wu said, because we need to have our populations show up and vote. If every Asian voter showed up, or even half of them, I would make it to the runoff right away. And that's why I want to instill a sense of urgency in everyone watching, that you got to get your friends to come out and vote. You have to get everyone to come out and vote, because that's how we're going to win this election. Texas has a South Asian population of over 1% now, and we've never had a South Asian representative. If elected, I would be the first ever South Asian representative, and representation matters. As a young Indian woman, I've never seen someone that looks like me in office, and that makes opportunities and doors open for other young women and young South Asian women, and South Asian people in general. So I'm here to ask for everyone's support. If you know anyone who lives in this district, which starts all the way up, starting in the Heights now with the redistricting, all the way down to Southeast Houston, make sure to tell them to go out and vote. And of course, we welcome all the help that we can get. So if you're interested in volunteering your time or donating, please, please, please reach out. My website is namfortexas.com, and I respond to emails really quickly. So again, thank you so much for having me here, and I'm excited to answer any questions.
Hi, Nam, Regine Calvert again. It's so nice to meet you. Just was wondering, this district that you're running for, 147, what percent might be Asian American?
Yeah, it's almost 12% now with the
Oh.
redistricting. Yes.
That is a good percentage. And how do you plan to use your position to help the community,
Yeah.
the Asian American community, excuse me?
Definitely. I think one of the things that I've seen, especially in my classroom, I have a few Asian students, is the model minority myth. And I think there's a lot of stereotypes surrounding Asians. And we're actually the group with the severest income inequality. If we're talking about the highest earners to the lowest earners, we're the group that has the most disparity. And I think it's very, very important that we educate people. I mean, this is something that I've seen Rep. Wu do, and I very much admire him for it, is just calling out the stereotypes, right? All these stereotypes that exist really negatively harm our community. And it's just making sure that our voices are heard in the State House along with all of the other voices, right? People of color are not all the same. Every demographic, even within Indian people, there's a huge range of issues depending on caste and socioeconomic status, and all of those things need to be addressed. So I really think it's just bringing more people into the conversation and making sure that all sides of the issue are being heard at the legislature level.
That's fabulous. Thank you so much, Nam. Good luck to you in your campaign.
Thank you.
May I remind our audience to please put your questions in the Q&A box. I think a lot of people are using the chat, which is okay, but if we can put it in the Q&A, I can decipher it a lot faster. Thank you.
I saw that there was a question. Should I answer it in the chat?
Go ahead. I think you did have a little time. I just see that now. Go ahead.
Okay. So Chanda asked, how will you inspire the youth to vote? So this is a huge target group for me. I've been at UH, TSU. Our district has 4 universities in it. And that is a huge voting population. Same thing. If students came out to vote, we would have the election right there. So I've been spending a lot of time personally at University of Houston and TSU, which are 2 big universities, and just talking to students. We were out there on the quad and they didn't know that there was an election, even though the election building was literally like 200 feet away. And so being there and telling them, hey, we have a young 23-year-old who's progressive and, who is on the ballot. We told them, hey, walk over right there and go vote. And that's how we're getting some votes in the young population as well. And we're telling them to spread the word. So that's what we're doing right now. And we're really active on social media, which is also a huge area for young people. So we're hoping that's going to get the youth to come out and vote.
Thank you. Thank you, Nam.
Okay, so we're so grateful to have Nam come here, and she is also on the Democratic ballot. So if you're living in, like she said, in the UH and also downtown Houston area, you will be seeing her on your Democratic ballot. And so next, we're going to have our next candidate, Jason Luo, and he is running also in Harris County in District Judge 185th Judicial District. So welcome, Jason. Before you are muted.
Here we go.
Yeah.
Hi, I'm Judge Jason Leung. Thank you for having me. I'm your incumbent Democratic judge of the 185th District Court. I was elected in 2018 and took the bench in 2019. I actually have known Gene for a very long time. He and I were prosecutors together at the district attorney's office in Harris County. We actually worked in the same court. And so I was happy when he got elected, and obviously he's been a great ally and friend of mine. So my court handles exclusively felony criminal cases, which means people are charged with serious crimes like murder, capital murder, sexual assault, drug cases. We go to trial a lot. We're actually just finished another trial this morning. And so I'm happy to be here with you and have the time to spend with you. I'll reiterate what the other candidates say. It's so important that the Asian community get involved. And I say this because, especially for myself as a Democrat, the Asian American is a growing population, but we don't do much organized political work, which is unfortunate. I'm actually, I think, the highest ranking Asian American elected official in Harris County because I'm a statewide judge. And I'm the first Vietnamese American, the first Asian American elected, East Asian American elected as a district court judge, and the only currently serving criminal district court judge in Harris County. With Vietnamese being the 3rd most spoken language in Houston and Asian community being so vibrant and active, it's surprising that we only have one sitting Asian American criminal court judge. So I implore all of you to tell your friends to vote and to donate and to get involved politically, because we will not have the type of change that we as our community want to have unless we organize and show that we have a political strength that needs to be listened to. In addition to that, even if you don't like to get engaged in politics itself, not everyone likes to block walk, not everyone likes to form groups, you got to get your friends in your community to donate. If you don't donate money to political campaigns, you're not going to have the influence. And I don't mean that as a negative way, but you've got to support the people you want to see in office. And that means for myself, for all the other candidates here, we go block walking, we pay for volunteer, we pay for people to help our campaigns, signage, all that things. So I advocate every single one of you to first get your people out there to vote, and also tell your friends if they don't want to do that kind of stuff, if they don't want to get involved politically in terms of activities, get involved, donate, because if it's important to you to have representation, it's important enough for you to donate and support those candidates financially.
Hi, Jason. Thank you very
Hi.
much. Good to see you.
Good to see you.
We have a question from the audience. Excuse me, Jason. It says, Jason, what would you do about the rising wave of crime in our area? Any major initiative in mind?
Okay. Well, the Texas Code of Judicial Conduct puts some constraints on what judges can say with respect to policy or individual type cases. But I will tell you as a general matter, and this shouldn't violate that rule, is that we need to do more to allow prosecutors to do their jobs. And what I mean by that, there's a large backlog because of COVID, where we didn't have trials for about 6-7 months, and now we're still just getting back to trials. And so we have a case backlog in every single court. What we need to focus on is allowing our prosecutors and our law enforcement to focus on serious violent offenders. You know, there are a large degree of cases that are nonviolent offenses that are still felony levels. Like if you shoplift, the third time you're charged with shoplifting, you have 2 prior convictions, it's actually a felony. It could be a stick of gum. It could be something what seeming to be inconsequential. But we need to focus resources on the more serious crimes, people engage in aggravated robbery. That way, and frankly, most of the people who commit low-level felonies need drug treatment, need mental health treatment. So I think as a global idea, we're going to have more resources dedicated towards non-incarceration remedies like substance abuse treatment, mental health treatment, counseling, while making sure that these people, it's their last time they're involved in the criminal justice system. It's more cost effective and allows all the resources involved to focus on what we really are concerned about as violent repeat offenders.
Very good. Well, we thank you so much for your time tonight. I wish we had more time to share, because I'm sure you have a lot of things to share. But
No problem.
We wish you luck in your campaign.
Yes, thank you. 185th District Court, please come out there and vote. I think all of us on here have primary opponents. So in the primary, every single vote matters. I won my primary in 2018 by less than 1%, only 1,400 votes. So every single vote matters. I have to log off because I've got a 2-year-old and a 3-year-old, and they're going to probably start jumping all over me if I don't get them dinner. So I appreciate everyone, and make sure you go out and vote.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Judge. And so we're going to move on to our next candidate, and he is Lima Barazzi. And she is also running in the district judge, but it's in 189th Judicial District. And actually, if you can explain what your district covers, that will be helpful to our attendees. And she and both Jason are on Democratic ballot as well. Thank you and welcome, Lima.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. My name is Lima Barazzi, and I'm running for the 189th District Court in Harris County. And Harris County covers Houston, it covers parts of Beaumont, it covers Woodlands, Kingwood, parts of Katy, Pasadena. It's huge. So a little bit about me. I immigrated to the United States when I was a child with my family from Damascus, Syria. I grew up in Alief, Texas, went to public schools here, went to Alief Elsick High School. I went to the University of Houston for undergrad and for law school. And after law school, I became a felony prosecutor. And I prosecuted cases from state jail felonies to first-degree felonies. I then got my MBA and I transitioned into civil litigation. I practiced down in the Valley. I did commercial litigation and personal injury down there. And then I was recruited to work with one of the largest law firms in the United States, Lewis Brisbois here in Houston, Texas. I worked on their medical malpractice defense team, and I defended doctors and hospitals and nurses, and thoroughly enjoyed doing that. I was then recruited by Howard Nations, a very famous personal injury attorney, to work with him on medical device litigation and pharmaceutical litigation. And I also worked on counterterrorism cases where I represented US veterans and Gold Star family members in DC on counterterrorism cases. And I'm currently the litigation partner for an intellectual property boutique law firm, and I represent small businesses and startups. So I decided to run for judge because over the course of my 15 years as a trial attorney, I've seen a lot of discrimination, especially against South Asians, Arabs, and Muslims. And so I've been complaining a lot. And finally I decided, you know what, Lima, you need to stop complaining. You need to put your money where your mouth is. And so I decided to run, and I've thoroughly enjoyed it. I've met a lot of great people. I hope to become the first Arab American judge in Texas's history. Believe it or not, we've never had an Arab American judge, and we only have a few in the nation. So I think it's time for that to change. It's time for our constituency to be properly represented in the judiciary. And I hope to be a very impartial as well as a compassionate judge. I think it's important to empathize with people, and not only to rule impartially and compassionately, but swiftly as well. And so this race is important to the AAPI community because I understand your story, because it's part of my story. The AAPI community won't have to worry whether they'll have a judge who can be empathetic, because I understand where you all came from, because I've made the same journey. And as I've said prior, it's important not only to rule judiciously, but compassionately, and to understand where people are coming from. Recently, there was a judge in Harris County who made some very off-putting statements. He had a Jordanian couple in front of him, and thinking his microphone was on mute, he said, "Arabs don't respect our courts because we can't cut off their hands." What's horrific is not only the statements that he made, which are untrue and dangerous, but what's sad is that this judge still hasn't been sanctioned or reprimanded. And I've been telling members of my community the reason is because we haven't been active. We don't have a voting bloc that is actively engaged. And until we become a strong voting bloc that is a force to be reckoned with, we won't be taken seriously or cared about. So that's my story. I'd love to entertain any questions you all have.
Thank you so much, Lima. It's nice to meet you. You actually answered a question inadvertently. The question was, what examples of explicit bias have you seen in the courtroom? And you just cited that. What can be done about things like that? You said, unfortunately, this judge is still sitting. Should we have complained? I mean, what is a way that we can help?
Yes. So when judges misbehave, their misconduct can be reported to the Judicial Commission. And I've made a complaint, and complaints can also be done anonymously, which is something that I recently learned. And I encourage everybody to file complaints if necessary. A lot of times attorneys are fearful of filing complaints because they feel that there might be backlash from a judge. I don't fear that. And I have filed complaints previously. And unfortunately, it's not only implicit bias, like I said, there's explicit bias, which is sad. And I have countless stories that I could tell you. I could tell you stories from when I was a felony prosecutor, and I would hear statements made by grand jurors in special proceedings, which were very, very upsetting.
Well, thank you, though. We'll have to catch you at another time. Tonight is a little bit tight. Thank you so much for all you've done and continue to do. Good luck in your campaign.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Yes, as our two judiciary candidates explained, that their district cover a large area, and it's very important for Asian American community to pay attention to. But because open, we don't know all of this details going on in the court. So next, we're going to move on to Harris County, and now will be County Commissioner, Precinct 4. And we welcome Ben Cho to talk to us about his position he's running for.
Hi, Helen. Thank you all so much for having me here. Thank you, Regine, Amatullah, Nilafar, everyone else who's been here. I am so proud to have been part of the Houston Asian American community for a long time. I've been a board member of OCA. I was an intern and part of it when I was at Rice as an undergrad. So I believe I also organized a candidate forum with OCA back in 2012. So that shows like my history of this organization. That's goodness, 10 years ago now. But as part of that, I actually got involved in campaigns when I was back in high school. I'm born and raised here in Southwest Houston. And in my first campaign, I was working to help elect a Chinese American who was running for mayor of Sugar Land. And I think we all know that Sugar Land is a highly diverse community. But back in the day, this was around 2005, I think 2006, we were going to be, if I was elected, the first Asian American to be mayor of any town in the greater Houston area. And so I was excited when I went to the first town halls with them, but only to find out that when we were there, people in the middle of public would call him out and say that he wasn't an American because he spoke with an accent, and that he was a communist because he was born in China. And I, as a 15-year-old, just thought this is insane. You know, you wouldn't see this in high school. And to see older, more people you thought would be more evolved would say these things just took me back. But the worst part was 2 weeks before election day, our office burned down. And so, you know, inside of me was that kind of notion of, you know, this form of what we now know as anti-Asian hate has always existed, right? It just become more clear in recent years. And so for me, getting involved has never been really a choice. It's always been, if we don't get involved and stay involved, then people are going to try and tell us what we can and what we cannot do. I've been honored ever since then now. I've worked in Congress. I worked for Speaker Nancy Pelosi, working with all Asian American communities as in her office. So now, most recently working at the Harris County Elections Office, where as the Director of Innovation, I helped to create some of the many voting innovations like drive-through voting here in Harris County, all of which were overturned by our governor and the Republican legislature, which is why I'm running to be our next county commissioner here, because we got to keep fighting to protect our right to vote. But more so than that, we've also got to bring good government and innovative ideas to fix our roads, to prevent flooding, to reduce crime. All these different things are what we're looking to do here to make Harris County the best place here. And to note, if I'm elected, I'll be the first Asian American ever to serve in Harris County Commissioner's Court. And in addition to that, you know, I'll only be 5 months older than Lena Hidalgo, so I won't be the youngest one there, but it's to continue building on the achievements, accomplishments of the Democratic majority that we've had here in Harris County. And that's what I'd look to bring here as our next county commissioner on the West Side Precinct 4.
Thank you so much. Good to see you, Ben. We have a good question for you. What is your #1 priority if elected as county commissioner?
Yeah, we got to fix our roads. You know, one of the things that I hear the most about is how our current Republican incumbent, he doesn't believe in working with the city of Houston, where the overlapping jurisdictions are, to fix the infrastructure there. He largely only wants to focus on outside the city of Houston. Now, I love all parts of Precinct 4, but since we all pay county dollars, we deserve our fair share. And so what we need to do is, look, at the end of the day, I think what has happened is because we have broken infrastructure throughout Harris County, we got to make sure that wherever we are, we got to fix the roads. If we can't even fix the roads, then what are we doing? But I've been trying to run a campaign that's more than just making promises. You know, I've put out something that says in 72 hours, we'll fix your road, we'll fix your bike path, we'll fix the sidewalk. But myself, I bought tons of asphalt in my car right now, and I've gone out and we've actually fixed a pothole ourselves. And so if you know of a pothole here in Precinct 4, which is on the southwest side of Houston, on the west side in Katy Side Fair, let me know. We'll come and fix your potholes too, and we'll show you how simple it is and how it can be done. And the question is just simply, who helps to pay for it? Let's not make that a question anymore. Let's just get the job done and stop the politics and complaining.
All right. Well, we thank you for that. I know it's hard to encapsulize a lot in such a short time, but good luck to you and the rest of your campaign. Thank you, Ben.
Thank you, Regine.
Thank you so much. Do we have another question, Regine? Are we ready? You're muted.
We have another question. The question
Yeah,
is,
we have
what
a
does a
question,
commissioner?
but we were out of time, so I moved on. So do you want to take it? Is Ben still there?
I'm here. Yes, I'm happy to take another
Okay.
question.
All right, the question that I'm seeing is, what does a commissioner do? You've kind of answered it in different pieces. Is there anything that you didn't say that a commissioner does that you feel is very important?
Yes, flooding and disasters, I think, is another key point. And we talk a lot about how we can prevent flooding, right? There's a lot of ideas right now. Here on the west side, we have the Barker and Addicks reservoirs, and those are, according to the U.S. Corps of Army Corps of Engineers, who are basically the smart people who helped to design the flood prevention projects. They say that those are the two most dangerous dams right now because they are in danger of actually breaking, of not actually succeeding, of water overcoming them. And of course, that would be a severe problem. So we need to continue to work with our federal partners to prevent floods. But in addition to that, we also need to think ahead of time. For example, does anybody, if you think about it, do you know where you can go if your house floods today? Like, do you know outside of friends or family, whose home you can go to? What community center can you go to? Most people have no idea, because what we don't have put together right now in the county is a kind of an action plan. For example, in kids, right, when you have a fire or a tornado, you in school or you in your office, you know where to go, right? You practice, you know all of those things. But we as a community, we don't know what to do when a disaster hits, right? A few weeks ago, when the grid was questionable as to when the freeze was happening, whether or not we would be needing to go to have warming centers, there was only 4 places that were opened up for all of the greater Harris County community to go to if your house froze. And none of those were on the west side. They were all in downtown or by Bush Airport. It's these questions of like basic things. How do we prepare our community so that if a disaster hits, you know what's going on? Can we have the media and all of our leaders be on the same page? You know what documents you need to have prepared so that you know which government agencies to contact for reimbursement or who to take care of your family members. All these different basic questions are something we have got to take care of. And I think that's what I'd love to bring as our next county commissioner.
Thank you, Ben. More than adequately answered. Okay, we need to move on. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Ben. And actually, audience and panelists, you can continue to dialogue with our candidates on the chat or privately if you have questions, or communicate with them later after the forum, because we really want to give our candidates a time to speak about themselves. And our next candidate is Monica Singh. She is running under Harris County Super Court at Law number 4. And we want to welcome Monica here. And both she and Ben are also running under the Democrat ballot. And please watch out for her name on your ballot.
Thank you, Helen. Hi, my name is Monica Singh. I was born and raised here in Houston, Texas, so I'm a very proud native Houstonian. I have been an attorney for the past 20 years. I'm running for Harris County Civil Court at Law number 4. It is a court where we hear civil matters, which include evictions and condemnation cases, breach of contract cases, car wreck cases, anything that has a dispute under $250,000. I've been practicing for 20 years, and I've actually also tried over 100 jury trials, which is very important because that means I'm actually in the courtroom that I'm seeking to obtain. So I'm in that courtroom day in and day out. I understand the functions. I have clients. I'm an attorney, so I understand how it is also to be nervous to be in front of a judge. All that understanding and the depth that I have in my litigation experience. I also equally am passionate in my advocacy roles. I'm a community activist, and I've been for a very long time. In fact, I started very early on, before I even had a law license. And how I met Regine was under Gordon Kwan when we had some cross-cultural programs that made sure that we understood one another, and they were pivotal in it. And since then, and especially since 9/11, I've been in the forefront of community advocacy and making sure that we all communicate with one another and have greater understanding. Currently, I serve on the board of the ACLU. I'm on the board of the Texas Lyceum and the board of the Sikh Coalition. As you can see, I'm very invested and interested in our civil rights and the community aspects. During COVID, I worked with a lot of judges, or I shouldn't say a lot, it was spearheaded by a few judges and a couple of attorneys. We put together an implicit bias training that we required within Harris County of all the judges that would like to subscribe to make sure that attorneys take this training so that they understand when people come through their courtroom that they have these implicit bias that they may have, and they can understand different cultures and communities. I'm very passionate about having a greater understanding amongst that. So walking in with that perspective and being an attorney and understanding the perspective of the litigants, I feel like I can marry the two and be a great jurist. Now, I heard there are a lot of firsts here. I'd be the first female Sikh judge in the entire United States. So not just here, it'd be the entire United States, which is a huge thing for the 5th largest religion. Obviously, I'd be the first Sikh judge in all of Texas, and in Harris County courts, I'd be the first South Asian judge. So there would be a lot of firsts, but my main goal in this is to make sure that we stop having firsts, that there are many of us, and we should continue to thrive in the professions that we are in. So I ask for your vote because that's what's going to get me in there, and I hope to represent our community as I sit on that bench. Thank you so much for your time, Emerge today.
It's so nice to see you. It's been a long time, and it's nice to see you on sort of the other side of the fence, if you will. I just wanted to ask you, you have been very active in the community and all of the things. You're well acquainted with the court system and what you want to do when you get elected. How are you going to get elected? Can you share with us what you are planning to do to get elected, Monica?
Well, so far I've had because I've been a community activist for so long, it's ground game is what I know and how I work. And so I've been working that very, very hard. And as we've discussed, through all these other candidates as well, we know that our AAPI community, we're a very small voting percentage. And so what I'm trying to do and really impress upon our community is, if we don't care now, when will we care? And so I'm trying to engage our community to come out. I've always done GOTV, Get Out the Vote initiatives prior to me running and having an implication on my own election. And so I'm doing those same things. And other than that, of course, I'm doing everything that every other candidate would do as well. Invest in themselves, invest in their campaign, and invest in getting the money out, getting the word out there. But really, I want to invest in our people, because I feel like if we're 3% of the voting population and we can change it to 4%, that signals to the rest of the county that we care enough to come out for our own people. So our vote matters. And so you should also pay attention to who we are.
That's great. Just real quickly, why did you choose this position? What made it special for you?
That's actually a really great question. So district courts, I always call it like the mo money, mo problems court, because it's a higher jurisdiction and it's civil law. What I love about this county court position is because it marries the lifestyle that I have of litigation and the love for the law that I have, and the resources and the things that I know about our community. Because of my exposure to the community, I know that there's the resources that are out there, and I can bring it to actual pro se litigants that come through the door, or other clients that come through the door, or people that are members of the court. And so that this court in particular, because it's county court, it has both not only attorneys, but it has pro se people. And so I feel like it's more community centered, and it's more the personality that I carry. And I'd like to have that in my professional life as well.
That's great. Thank you. And I know you as Manpreet. So thank you, Manpreet. Monica, good luck to you.
Thank you so much.
Okay, that's great. And I'm so happy we have so many younger generation API leaders here. As a matter of fact, I was hoping that we have more Asian American parents and students to come to join us, because really our candidates are our leaders, and our future leaders are here. So we're going to welcome our next candidate, Thuy Lee. She is running under Harris County Criminal Court at law number position number 10, and see how the story you can bring to us.
Well, thank you so much. Hi, good evening, everyone. My name is Thuy Lee, and I'm running for County Criminal Court at Law Number 10. County Criminal Court at Law Number 10 hears everything from appeals of traffic tickets to assault cases to shoplifting cases to graffiti. So it deals with anything in which the maximum penalty is a $4,000 fine and or a year maximum in jail. So the really important thing to know about county criminal court is the vast majority of the cases in county criminal courts deal with young offenders, first-time offenders, and non-violent offenders. So the many cases in the county criminal court, 77% eventually get dismissed, whether through pretrial diversion, doing some community service, or they are found to be actually innocent. So it's a court in which if a young person gets charged with a crime in that court, they are at a crossroads in their life. We can either give them the tools necessary so they do not reoffend and learn their lesson and move on with their life and be contributing members to society, or we can take another road and create a system in which there are convictions and incarceration, and then it creates a system in which people can reoffend. They are part of the criminal justice system. Young people cannot move on with their lives. And how my passion is serving young people and communities of color. Prior to going to law school, I was an advocate for victims of human trafficking and sexual slavery, the vast majority of women who are from AAPI communities. After that, I went to law school, and when I left law school, I worked at the Galveston District Attorney's Office, and then the Harris County District Attorney's Office, where actually Jean Wu and I were in the same court. So Jason, Jean, and I were one of 6 Asian prosecutors out of 300 and something plus employees at the Harris County District Attorney's Office. At that time, and even now, there has always been an underrepresentation of Asian attorneys in that office. So after that, I went and started my own practice, and I was the first Asian person in the largest criminal defense bar in the country. It was a 100-year organization. They've never had an Asian board member. So I was their first one. Subsequently, I brought other Asian board members, other Asian attorneys to be board members. And so my commitment has always been to the AAPI community. I also do what I also do is I also mentor and tutor first generation high school and college students to go to college and law school. So my commitment has always been to this community. My commitment has always been to the AAPI community and underrepresented communities. I have over 16 Democratic Club's endorsements, including Congressman Al Green, State Senator John Whitmire, and State Representative Jean Wu. Again, I'm Thuy Lee, and I hope to have your vote for County Criminal Court at Law Number 10.
Thuy, it's so nice to meet you. You are so inspirational. It seems like you found your calling. How do you plan to get elected into this position? That's the final thing you need to do. You've got all of the qualifications and the commitment.
It's like everything I've done my whole life. You have to be involved in the community. Like Monica said earlier, you know, I've always been so committed to this community. I didn't just start getting involved with the various communities when I ran. I have always been involved. And so that's why Congressman Al Green has endorsed me. That's why Senator Whitmire, that's why State Representative Jean Wu. And you can see the diversity in there. You can see why it's important. And then all these different groups that I've been working with in terms of the colleges, the high school, and I have all the endorsements of the U of H College Democrats. Those young people, I've been engaging with them since they were in high school, and now they're college kids, and then now they're voters. And so I'm so excited, and they're so excited for me. But you cannot run as a candidate and not have the engagement of the community. And I have that, and that is how I'm going to win.
That sounds great. Well, much luck to you. Good continued success, and we look forward to working with you. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. I'll be available for any questions.
Okay, thank you so much, Thuy. And we're going to move on to our next candidate, and that's going to be Imam Afshar, and he had the position of Justice of Peace, Precinct 5 in place 2. And welcome to our panel.
Hi, Helen. Hi, how are you? Thank you for having me tonight. My name's Iman Afshar. I'm running for Justice of the Peace, Precinct 5, Place 2. Now, I know a lot of the justices that have been on here talking about different districts, and now I'm talking about a precinct. So it's basically starts in the Galleria area, and it goes all the way up past the Energy corridor into parts of Katy. That would be the description of the Precinct 5. So if you've ever seen signs for Constable Ted Heap, that's Precinct 5. It's very large. It includes a very large section of the Asian American community. And so please, 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 everyone get out to vote. A little bit about me. My parents moved to the United States separately, and they moved here and they met in Texas in a small town outside of Houston. I don't know if you've ever heard of it. It's called Beaumont, Texas. They met at Lamar University over there. So I'm a first generation United States citizen of my family. And then I attended South Texas College of Law, Houston for my law degree. And that was a time when I wanted to get more involved in international. And the law clinics that we had at South Texas got me more involved with positions. I actually served as a mediator in some of these justice courts. And that's where I finally understood what was going on with the processes there. And I was excited to get involved. But after that, I went and got my master's of law from U of H. And that was, the decision for that was because at the time we had a lot of opportunities that were rising. And so I decided to go that route. But in my own private practice, I field calls daily from people that need to go to JP courts because JP courts have civil cases under $20,000 all the time. So we have a lot of people that are pro se that but they don't know what to do. They're just confused. And that's one of the problems that we have. This justice court was set up in order to provide people another opportunity, a remedy, a way for them to solve their problems themselves. And that's why a majority of the people that go there, especially in the civil matters, are pro se. And I think if there was just a little bit more information that was out there for people to see, then we would be able to clear up a lot of this mass case log or mass confusion that we have with the JP courts. Houston's got 3 law schools, and each of these law schools have wonderful clinics. One of the things I would love to do is to get the clinics involved with the JP court. Not only is that going to give the opportunity to those people that are pro se to basically reach out and talk to someone under the supervision of a professor, but also it's going to give the opportunity for future lawyers to have an opportunity to deal with real clients. And everybody in here that's a lawyer can tell you how valuable that experience will be. So that's what I'm running for. I love the community that I'm working with. And so as a result, this JP role is something that fits my personality well. I get to help people, and I used to get to handle a little bit of all sorts of cases. That's what the beauty of the JP court is.
Great, nice, nice to meet you, Aman. I was curious, we have a pretty good sized Asian American community, and the district or the precinct that you're serving does as well. So how would you outreach out to the AAPI community in your position if elected?
So as a justice court, one of my biggest things I'd like to do is to bring more people into the court to be involved. I'd like to offer times for people to come in and just ask questions if they want to be there. Students, I'd love to get high schools to come out there, have a field trip just to learn about what's going on. Because I think if we can normalize being in front of a judge or normalize being in a courtroom and seeing the experience, then in the future, more people are going to want to be involved. And we want more youth involved because that's the future. So my goal to reach out to the Asian American community and of course, other communities in general, to get out to the youth and encourage them to vote and encourage them to be involved, because without any of it, we're going to be stuck.
That's great. Iman, thank you so much. Good luck to you in your
Thank you for having
campaign.
me.
Okay.
Thank you.
Good night.
Good night.
So that conclude our Harris County part of our today's candidate forum. We really want to thank all the candidates to come to speak to our audience, especially during this really busy time and Friday night, right? And you can all hear that how important these issues are. And we normally don't hear about this. So you won't be able to read the news and read this and that, but really this is why we're hosting this candidate forum, is for all of us to learn how important all of these positions for us. And so at this point, we're going to take a few minutes break, and we're going to move on to our next session, which would be our Fort Bend candidates. And I'm going to invite Amatula to come back to the host. Amatula, is there something you want to say, or should we just take a break at this point?
Yeah, we can go ahead and take a quick break. I'm just going to share my screen that will let everyone know that we will be back at 8:05 p.m.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you, everyone.
Hi, everyone. Welcome back. We'll get started with our Fort Bend County portion of our candidate forum. I'm so grateful for everyone who stuck around. We've got a brand new great slate of wonderful candidates to introduce to y'all. And before we get started, I just want to share my screen real quick so that I could share with y'all. Share with y'all some really important dates about early voting in Fort Bend County. And before I begin, I did want to go ahead and share a few housekeeping rules, which are, if you have any questions for the candidates, please be sure to include them in the Q&A box. That's the best way that our moderators are able to look through the questions and ask them to our candidates in a timely fashion. And I also wanted to share some information about early voting. So this upcoming weekend is the only weekend and also the last weekend that folks can early vote during the weekend. So be sure to, if the weekend is the only time that you can go out and cast your vote in the primary election, make sure that you go and do it on Saturday and Sunday this upcoming weekend, as well as in Fort Bend County. Polls are not open on Monday, February 21st due to President's Day. So make sure that if you're voting during the week, that you make a plan to vote between Tuesday, February 22nd till Friday, February 25th. It's always important to make sure that you vote early. Don't wait until the last day, but if you must, please be sure to cast your vote by Tuesday, March 1st, and make sure that you get your vote in, as well as make sure that your mail-in ballots are turned in by March 1st. And without further ado, I'm going to hand it over to my colleague, Niloufar Hafizi, to go ahead and continue with the rest of the forum.
Thank you, Amatola. Hello, good evening, everyone. It's great that we are having this forum and that we're having so many diverse candidates from Fort Bend County, which is itself one of the most diverse counties in America. So I'm excited to get started with our first candidate, Mr. Daniel Lee, running for House District 26. He is running against, that is the seat occupied by incumbent J.C. Jatan, and he's running in a contested primary. Mr. Lee.
Good afternoon, good evening, everybody. I want to thank Helen, Regine, Sophia, Matula, Engage for putting this together. I'm proud to be a part of this panel. Although I'm a huge Marvel fan and they really help bring out and showcase AAPI superheroes such as Shang-Chi, it's great to see all these real life heroes and sheroes of the AAPI community come forward and lead today. The reason why I'm running is because bad laws hurt good people. I've been a lawyer for 14 years and I've had the displeasure of being at the end of the spectrum, and we've got to come together to make these good laws so that we can help good people. I want to be your next state representative for House District 26, and with your support, I can get that done. HD 26 is all of Fort Bend. It's under Katy Asiatown, under I-10, that part of Katy, Richmond, and Pecan Grove. We've all been affected or known someone who's been affected by self-serving or ineffective legislation. And we've seen bad legislation destroy homes, destroy families, destroy finances, and delay recovery. So we just need good representation that fits the ideals and goals of our neighborhoods, because we didn't ask to be gerrymandered into mushroom or, weird snake-like districts where someone from not our area tells us that we're part of their area and, dictates what we need to do. At the end of the day, the main thing I always say is don't forget where you came from, because only then you know how far you still need to go. My wife and I are a happily blended family of Asian and Latin descent. Our parents were hardworking immigrants, citizen, a restaurant waiter, an Empire State Building elevator operator, a Vietnam War veteran, and a wonderful homemaker. And all of these things make me the best candidate in this primary to flip the seat. And neither one of us in our family will forget what our parents did, as well as what plagued them and ourselves to this very day. I believe that, having a blended family presents its many, many challenges, in both communities. However, united is the only way that we can overcome all this adversity, because at the end of the day, we're not a divided States of America, we're a United States of America. And, although I'm born here, my family and I honestly struggled as non-English speaking immigrants. Even though I spoke English, I still got put in ESL. So on a daily basis, I represent all these types of children and families in court who may or may not be able to afford legal services or speak English. And I stand with them in court defending them, from losing their parental rights, not understanding the system, protecting them from getting their freedoms taken away, or simply needing to be protected from a big corporate bully. So once again, I won't forget where I came from and what others have done for me in the past, for how I got here today. I'm not going to forget all my mentors like the Jean Woos or the Martha Wongs of the world. And that's what makes me, the best candidate for this seat. I'm not a lifetime politician, but I've been a mediator in high conflict divorce and family law cases. So I know how to work across the aisle with any or everyone, being that I've seen people at their worst and help people get to their best. And I think
Thank you, Daniel.
Thank you.
Thank you. We have 1 minute left for questions. Are there any audience questions? I think we have a question coming up in a different chat. What would your legislative priorities be if elected?
Where do I start? Well, first thing we need to do is pay our teachers right, because if we start there, our children, being AAPI, education is #1 to us. And if we can have our teachers paid correctly and our school systems fixed, then essentially we're going to be able to, instead of have everybody crowd into the Seven Lakes or Cinco Ranches and the Clements, we can have a more balanced system. My opponent was part of the Board of Education. So, he may have a lot of answers, but none of the solutions came through at all. So that's #1. Obviously, we have to address the power grid and get more funding. We need more funding towards that. I'm not an engineer, I'm a lawyer. So I don't know exactly how power grids work. So honesty, I believe, will help me understand and, give the experts what they need to do, which is money, to get where our solutions are, if that makes sense. And, lastly, we need to make sure that we get our voting rights, handled properly. With all the issues with mail-in votes and a lot of voters getting confused at the polls or just confused in general, it feels like a lot of the ball is being hidden, and we need to flesh it out and make it easier and make it less restrictive. A lot of the things that Ben put together, I believe, were helpful, and I'd like to see more of that.
Great, thank you. We appreciate your being here. I'd like to note that Representative J.C. Jaton was invited to tonight's panel, but could not make it. So thank you. It was Daniel Lee for House District 26. Next, we have Mr. Nelvin Adriatico for House District 28. I'd like to note that he is running unopposed in his primary and that he has very graciously agreed to limit his remarks to 3 or 4 minutes in order to give other candidates more time. So thank you for that.
Of course. Hello, everyone. My name is Nelvin Joseph Adriatico, and I'm running to be your next state representative for District 28. First and foremost, we, the people, should be electing our leaders to represent us and not the other way around. For so many years, I have seen what our elected officials do to our lives, and that impacts our lives, the good, the bad, and the ugly. So I've always believed that a representative should have a strong background in community and involvement in civic engagement. He should know what keeps the people awake at night, what services are needed, and how to help them thrive. Because in Austin, we are the voice of the people. But at home in Fort Bend, we should be the eyes and the ears of the people, because we would be able to help them thrive, right? As a son of a teacher, I have learned early on the value of hard work. And as a business leader, I know the importance of good paying job. And I have served the community for the past 20 years, helping the community and helping the people who can speak for themselves. And that's one of the reasons why I am running, because I want to speak and fight for the people and for our community. That's been my core values, and the core of my campaign is building coalitions, because representation matters. So I am asking for the support of the Asian American. It's time for us to step up and have a place and a seat at the table. Thank you all for your support. If you have any questions, I'd be more than willing to answer the questions.
Thank you. We have a question. What committees would you want to serve on if elected, and how would they help the AAPI community?
Education and actually the infrastructure is pretty much, because I look at it more on a generalized, as a son of a teacher, again, I always believe that our teachers are not valued as they needed to be. I want to make sure that they retire with dignity. Our retirement system for teachers are broken. That's number one. Number two, for small businesses, poor infrastructure is a wealth destroyer, and we need to do something about it. We've experienced that during the power grid. We've experienced that during Harvey, and now with COVID. So we gotta make sure that we have all the systems in place and help the infrastructure to make sure that this doesn't happen again, because when calamity strikes, look what happens. Our economy crumbles, our education system is impacted, and the people that's really getting the worst is actually our children and the education. So those are the committees I would love to be part of.
Great, thank you so much, Nelvin. Appreciate your time. Again, Mr. Adriatico will be on the Democratic ballot. And next we have JD Abraham, also on the Democratic ballot, running in a contested race for the 328th District Court in Fort Bend.
Thank you so much, AIPI, and thank you everyone for being here tonight. My name is Shetty Abraham. I'm running for the 328th District Court here in Fort Bend County, and that court is a family law court. And I'll just tell you, I have 20 plus years of practicing as an attorney, and basically from day two, not day one, from day two onwards, I was in court. I'm a trial lawyer, and now having had all that years of family law experience, I joined the Fort Bend County DA's office as a prosecutor. I work for Brian Middleton now, and I am a prosecutor in the Family Violence Division. Now that's been a passion for me all of my professional life. When I was in private practice, I used to represent a lot of women and other individuals who are victims of domestic violence. It includes children. I was practicing with Children's Protective Services where I represented kids, but there are so many stories that stand out for me. One of the touching stories I remember sitting in the Women's Center with a female, with an Indian lady who had to run from an abusive relationship with her children. And we're in a hidden location in Fort Bend County Women's Center. And I'm talking to her. And while there's America is inclusive to a certain degree, it is so odd for someone who has just come from India to sit there and not see any faces they recognize. So I've committed my life to family law and professional life to family law. And now I'm a prosecutor in the Family Violence Division. So it's just a maturing of my profession. And then I decided to run for a judicial office. And I think I'm highly qualified to be a judge. Recently, I was inducted, and the lawyers on the panel know what this would mean. I am a fellow. I just got inducted as a fellow for the Texas Bar Foundation. And the lawyers here will know that it is only 1/3 of 1% of practicing attorneys get asked to be a fellow of the Texas Bar Foundation. And that's based on peer review, my trial experience, and what I've done for the community. And I'm honored to be part of that. So I bring obviously the skill sets, but most importantly, I bring the passion. And it's more than, while I'm human and everything is not altruistic, I have to say, I believe there's a force here with the Indian Americans, with the entire AAPI, especially in Fort Bend County. There is a force that is not awake thus far, fully awake. And I am hoping that I can bring in the next generation. I can move the people to not just pay our property taxes, not just collect our degrees, but actually to have a seat at the table and be the force that we are. My name is Shetty Abraham, and I'm running for a judge of the 328 Judicial District Court. I can answer questions now if anybody has questions.
Great, thank you. How has campaigning as an AAPI woman influenced both your campaign and how you will be as a judge?
So especially in family life, we really think about it. It's about custody battles, divorces, the effects of what the rulings in a family court have. It's so impactful to the children, to everybody involved. And having someone that understands not just the Western, but the Eastern backgrounds of every litigant coming in that courtroom, such an AAPI individual background has, I think the rulings are going to be more equitable, more fair, more proper. And I have to tell you, I'm from India. I actually learned English in this country. I learned English in Tyler, Texas, of all places, where I know Daniel Lee talked about ESL. There was no ESL. It was just trial by error. But here I am today, and sitting on the bench, having litigants when their heart is breaking, when custody battles happening, seeing somebody like me, I think that will get closer to equity and justice than ever before.
Great, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
That was J.D. Abraham on the Democratic ballot. Next, we have also for judicial position, Mr. Surendran Patel.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for organizing this wonderful event, and thank you for having me. I'm Surendran K. Patel. I'm running for 240th District Court. A little bit about me. I was born and raised in Kerala, the southern part of India. I started my career in 1996 in Kerala as a trial lawyer. I practiced in the trial and appellate side for 13 years in Kerala. Then I started my practice. I moved to Delhi and started my practice in Supreme Court of India. I practiced in the Supreme Court of India for 3 years and argued 32 cases, including constitutional law. Then I moved to Texas in 2007, at the end of 2007. And the Texas law allows a common law practicing attorneys to, if they have 5 out of 7 years of good standing, to directly appear the bar without going to the school here, but they have to pass within a period of 2 years of your arrival. So I was within that small window, and I appeared the bar and I passed in the first attempt, and I started my practice here in Texas in 2009. Then I went back to the school to do my master's in international law in the University of Houston Law Center, and I did my master's in international law. I also published a research paper on crimes of aggression. In that paper, I critically evaluated the definition of crimes of aggression adopted by the world body, and I proposed a new definition which includes cybercrime, also a part of crimes of aggression. In Texas, I am practicing predominantly Harris, Fort Bend and surrounding counties, and also in the 1st and 14th Court of Appeal. So as a trial and appellate attorney, I have a vast experience with the international background, and this particular court handles civil, criminal, election, property foreclosure, land title, those kinds of cases. My broad experience as a general practicing attorney, I think I can serve the community better, not only for the litigants and as well as the community at large. I am married. My wife and I are raising 2 wonderful daughters here in Fort Bend County. And I am also active in the community for the last 13 years. I'm involved with a lot of non-profit organization. I ran last time for another position, and I lost in the runoff. So I hope that this time, with your help, I can make it. Thank you so much.
Great, thank you, Mr. Patel. We have a question. What do you think is any big misconception about the role of a judge in the US that AAPI communities maybe tend to have?
One of the challenges I faced as a trial attorney is that the judges, it is very challenging to me, and sometimes it is very frustrating to me that in 2015, I'm also a certified mediator, by the way. In 2015, when I was arguing a case in front of a judge in Fort Bend County, that case is not pending now, and I don't want to disclose any of the jurisdiction, but I'm talking about the challenges of the Asian American and immigrants community facing in a court of law. After I concluded my argument, the judge asked me a question, not about the facts of the case, not about the law involved in the case, but about my religion. Are you a Muslim? I had to answer that. So I said, no, but does that matter? And the judge doesn't have any answer to that. So we as a community facing a lot of challenges. And again, I also faced a lot of frustrating situation when I repeatedly heard while I was arguing the case from the opposing counsel as well as from the bench that this is the standard practice we follow here, even though that is against the decision by the hierarchy of the court by the Supreme Court or the Supreme Court of United States or the Supreme Court of Texas. I am not for the standard practice here. I am here to follow the law and apply the law in the facts of the particular case. So I think there are a lot of changes needs to be done in the bench as well as in the bar. And I hope that I can make that happen.
Great, thank you, Mr. Patel, for sharing those experiences and your comments with us. Next, we have Judge KP George, who currently serves as the county judge for Fort Bend. He was first elected in 2018, and he is running with an opponent in his primary. Judge George.
Good evening, everyone. I am KP George, your Fort Bend County Judge, and I'm first of all, thank you for this opportunity to address the AAPI community. I got elected in 2018. Thank you, and we came a long way. And I'm the first person of South Asian descent to get elected to run a county in state of Texas. The Fort Bend County is the 10th largest county in state of Texas. We came a long way in this journey, and Fort Bend County is the most ethnically diverse county in the country, and according to the Kinder Institute right now, and with a 22.6% Asian population, so we have an opportunity to shine as a community together. And I started with last year, this was my 4th year. We said our major accomplishment was better emergency management, total transparency, youth empowerment, and of course, citizens engagement. All these promises very well kept. Today, Fort Bend County have a better emergency plan. We have an emergency management system in place. We have an emergency management building under construction. We are going to be opening one of the state-of-the-art emergency management facility next month under our supervision. And talking about total transparency, we are first time ever we started live streaming commissioners court meetings and community engagement, numerous level. And if you look at, and also using social media and other social platforms at the very best. Fort Bend County, when I came into Fort Bend County Judge's office, more than 65 to 70% of the people didn't know what a county judge's office did. Today, I'm very proudly say that that is not the case. And also empowering youth. Today we have a youth leadership program, county judge's office initiated last 2-3 years, and also last summer, and also an internship program. Last summer, first time ever, Fort Bend County had a paid internship program. We started 250 of our young people, and this summer also we will be doing that. Citizens engagement is another thing. We have a citizens committee is working to engage with the community, and we did numerous community engagement events like county judge at your corner, and resource tour and listening tour, and so engaging. And we have numerous accomplishments. When one of the top, we should say, COVID response, Fort Bend County is last week noted as the #2 per capita basis vaccine administration, and numerous in state of Texas, as a matter of fact. And we had numerous programs we put in place to empower and engage our citizens. So due to lack of time, and I will say some of our major things we are looking at, of course, mobility is going to be a major issue. We are addressing that, and of course, flood mitigation is another issue we are looking at. Community resources, providing better community resources. We will continue to do youth empowerment and things of that nature. More importantly, maybe in the history of our country, I should say this last fall, I was able to single-handedly with finally, of course, it has to be supported by the 2 Democratic Commissioners Court members. I was able to redraw the Fort Bend County's map, the Commissioners Court map, to create a Asian opportunity precinct in Fort Bend County. Maybe that is history. It never happened in the past. So, so absolutely engaging our community. As you know, that during early days of COVID, there were so many people coming from our Asian brothers and sisters, especially people coming from our brothers and sisters coming from the Chinese background and things of that nature. They were abused on the street, and we literally stood up and fought. And we had numerous events, and we have a rally to support them. And so we are shining as a community, living together and celebrating our diversity in Fort Bend County. We came a long way. And I will kind of stop there and entertain any questions. If you wanted to know anything about me or my platform or accomplishment, what we are looking to do moving forward, kpgeorge.com. And you know where to find me. And most of you have even my personal cell phone number. And I'm not a stranger to any one of you. And so please, and once again, I appreciate your support and your hard work. And make no mistake, the other side definitely don't want me there. They want me to, so that's the reason why we all have to come out and support the right candidate and elect the right candidates, and playing all kind of games. And I see that some of these candidates coming from the Asian background or even Indian background, they're saying it has been, I see the chat, it has been invited, not came, or they're not showed up. Love to hear that, their side of the story, but they're not here. But I tell you, support, I appreciate your support, and I'm here to serve the community, serve 860,000+ of Fort Bend residents. We are going to have 1 million people by 2026 to 2027, early 2027. And that's the very reason why my slogan is moving hashtag Fort Bend forward. And so
Great,
I need
thank
your
you.
help. Thank you.
Thank you. And so we don't have time for audience questions, but as he said, he's around and available. Our next candidate is Mr. Qaiser Imam, also known as Q, for Fort Bend County Treasurer.
Thank you. Can everybody hear me? I just want to make sure since I'm in the car. So first of all, good evening. And boy, it is so exciting to be in the presence of so many Aapi leaders, community activists, and people who do the real work. So thank you for giving me the opportunity. What's amazing, and by the way, sorry for this ambiance. We just left the candidate forum, as you can imagine. It's high drive time right now. What's amazing is how so many Aapi organizations came together so fast and put this together. And that in turn shows the power, the leverage that the Aapi community has. And it's also now apparent in this number of Aapi candidates that are on the ballot. And so first of all, kudos to all. I remember, my gosh, more than a decade ago, doing workshops at community centers, at mosques, at every event that we had an opportunity to ask Aapi community to get engaged, register to vote, become precinct chairs in the political party, and just learn about the system. So I am Q, go by Q, name is Qaiser Imam, and I'm running for the Fort Bend County Treasurer position. It's a county-wide position. County Treasurer is basically the custodian of the taxpayers' money, basically the eyes of our money that the county is holding on to. The treasurer makes sure that the budget, as determined by the commissioner's court, gets spent and is allocated to the departments. It's accounted for, it's reported, and it's managed within the parameters that have been defined by the statutory state, county, and regulatory laws, because again, we do not want to be playing with this money. And that is the main role of the treasurer. What the treasurer can do, however, if it's a community-facing treasurer, is to ensure that the type of resources that are doing business with the counties, such as the banks, is to basically ensure that those banks are also doing something for the community, especially our small businesses. So one of the two key platform items is, hey, the banks that want to do business with the county, you're going to have to do forums, workshops in the community where small businesses can learn about what do I need to do today in order to apply for a loan, to expand, to grow in a year. We don't want our businesses to find out that they didn't have certain statements or certain tax returns. So that's the first thing. The second thing, which we hear all the time, is what I call financial literacy among our youth. So this is something I've talked about several times, and that is when you ask our youth, they basically sometimes struggle with writing a check. How do I manage my bills once I get out of school? So again, using the resources, using the mentors in the community, as a treasurer who has access to these resources, in addition to doing your job, you can bring that value to the community. I am asking for your support. Anybody in Fort Bend County can vote for this position. Q for Fort Bend County Treasurer. I'm number 1 on the ballot. Thank you.
Great, thank you, Q. And we have a question. It seems that the Democratic voter turnout is very low. What are you as a candidate doing to motivate your party's voters to come out in large numbers and overcome voter suppression?
Great questions. Almost 2 questions in that. So the first one is, yes, absolutely. Trust me, we all are seeing that and we are all concerned about that. And, every pundit has their own reason as to why it's low and so forth. The bottom line is, as a candidate, our job is to make sure that we are, A, first informing the voter, then B, which is what we are right now, is getting out the vote. And we are doing we're using every tool that typically we are told to do that. But however, since it's an Aapi, which is, mailers and calls, but Aapi community has a tremendous advantage of the type of networks at the grassroots we have. So the nice thing about having Aapi candidates on the ballot is that we should be, and we are trying to leverage that type of resources and tools and increase that turnout. Now, how successful we're going to be, only time will tell, but I will tell you this weekend, tomorrow, Sunday, and the last week of early voting, knowing Aapi voting trends, been there, work with the community, these are huge. All candidates must pay attention to tomorrow, Sunday, and the last week of early voting. It is critical. So our focus is again calling, using our organizations. A lot of young folks are actually now engaged. So we are using every tool out there, but really it's a one-on-one, getting people to basically who we have tagged as relational contact to kind of mobilize them even more.
Great, thank you so much, Q.
Thank you.
Here. And our next candidate is also running for Fort Bend County Treasurer on the same ballot, Mr. Johnson Thomas. Mr. Thomas, are you here?
Yes, I'm sorry, I had it on mute. Same like Q, I just got out the same meeting with Q, and it's a pleasure to be on your panel. Thank you for having me. And the reason that I'm running for Fort Bend County Treasurer is I worked in the county, I worked in the district clerk's office, I worked in the court system, and I currently work in the probation department. And I see the struggles that people go through being an Indian person, especially along the line what Surendran Patel said. Indian community still does not have, even though we have multiple elected officials, we still don't get the respect that we need or what we deserve. So I was looking at what can I do to serve the community and the whole community, not just the Indian community, but everybody that is underrepresented. So I looked around and I said, what can I do to serve the community? And one of the things that I felt I was best qualified for is the county treasurer, because I have a background. I have an accounting degree. I worked at the Internal Revenue Service as an auditor. I worked at Texas Workforce Commission doing employer tax audits. And I figure once, get in and be a voice to the community of not just Indian community, but everybody who needs a voice in the community. Because many of the times some elected officials, they just go around, run around. It's playing musical chairs. They run around, when the music stops, they look for the next open seat and they want to sit in it. And I have a lot of respect for Mr. Q, who's also running for treasurer. Unfortunately, you have two candidates of Desi descent, and we are both very well qualified. And we're running against a candidate who's actually promising something along the lines. He ran for county commissioner a while back ago, and he's reusing the speech that he did. He's going to provide roads for the people, $100 million to start business. He's going to build a budget surplus and so on and so forth. So it's an uphill battle for both me and Q. And we're going to, we have to tell the people we don't make decisions on how to spend the money. We are the custodians of the financial resources of the county. We make sure that the finances of the county is safe. We act as the chief financial officer, chief investment officer of the county to make sure that all our county's funds are being appropriated correctly and to disperse them properly. So, and one of the main things, my goals was almost, is financial literacy, teaching the kids how, as a community outreach program outside of the treasurer's scope. Current Republican treasurer does nothing for the community. He sits in the office. All he does is collect a paycheck. We want to make a change where the treasurer's office does community outreach, goes out to the people, see what they need. Can we help them with, with the banks that deal with the county? Can we do something for the community? Let's do the financial literacy. Let's go to the high schools, teach the kids, hey, having bad credit is the worst thing you could do. It's the most costliest mistake that people could have. It affects anything from your credit card rate, what you pay on your car insurance, what you pay on your mortgage. You might not make $1 million in your lifetime in your account, but it might cost you $1 million in your lifetime for the bad credit that you have. So I want to teach kids or even adults that need that education to be able to get it.
Great, thank you, Mr. Thomas. We have a question. AAPI voters tend to sometimes not vote all the way down the ballot. What is your campaign doing to get AAPI voters engaged and educated about these down ballot races?
We're telling them, we have the Democratic Party right now has one of the best candidate slates available. Everybody has experience. Everybody's qualified. Mostly everybody is qualified for the positions. That's why I said, I definitely feel my opponent, Mr. Q, is qualified for this position. I'm qualified for the position, but there are some candidates who are not qualified. So we're not trying to fight each other. And I talked to Mr. Q about this. Let's not fight amongst me and you. We, unfortunately, we have the best credentials. So you have to pick and choose. Look on our website, see what our qualifications are. We're going to tell people, I go around telling people, listen, if you look on our slate in the primaries, we have the best available candidates. One might not be qualified, but you have two others who are very well qualified. So we're the best representation that you are going to get as being a minority in this community in Texas, in America, is being on the Democratic ticket, because nobody's going to listen to you if you're on the Republican ticket. Look at all the candidates that run on the other side. They barely get 10% of the votes. At least we have the chance as minorities to stick together and get stuff done, get involved. And we're given that opportunity from the Democratic Party. Thank you.
Great, thank you, Mr. Thomas. It's a great problem to have multiple AAPI candidates running for one position. It shows how far our community is coming. Okay, so next we have Snita Sane, who's running for County Commissioner in Precinct 4.
Hi, good evening, everyone. Pleasure to join you all. And, we just finished one forum and I'm getting on. I'm in the car, so excuse me. I just parked to talk to you all. I'm Nita Sane, running for Commissioner Precinct 4 for Bend County. Lived in this county for over 24 years and immersed myself in the community service, serving many organizations in leadership roles, ranging from Super Neighborhood Council to YMCA, NAACP, Rotary, you name it. And along the way, I was elected to Houston Community College trustee for Fort Bend and Alief, and I served as elected trustee for 12 years. Brought transformative programs, services, state-of-the-art facilities, amenities, and gained extensive experience in leading one of the largest public entities in the nation with over $350 million budget, annual budget, over 20 public facilities, including public safety, buildings, maintenance, workforce, recreation, amenities. And so with that experience, hard work, accomplishments for the people, delivering what the people of Fort Bend needed, I'm running for Precinct 4 Commissioner to bring sustainable infrastructure when it comes to flood prevention, mobility, traffic flow, healthcare for trauma patients, and growth for small businesses and job growth for Fort Bend County. I have the experience of delivering what people of Fort Bend County need for their economic growth, for their living conditions. And so I have the experience to hit the ground running on the day one on the job. My educational background quickly includes an MBA in finance and accounting. And I have a sustainable business strategy certificate from Harvard Business School. I'm a certified life coach and a small business owner myself. And there's never been a woman on the commissioner's court since the county was formed in 1837. So it is high time that women's perspective are considered on the commissioner's court when the budgetary decisions, policy decisions get made. It's high time. And so I'm running for two reasons, to bring first time ever women's leadership on the commissioner's court and making sure that we have smart and sustainable infrastructure for the growing population of Fort Bend. And I've been a long-time Democrat, very active Democrat right after I got my citizenship. The county was highly dark red, but come a long way. And AAPI community has been amazing support and a blessing. So thank you so much for your support all throughout these years.
Okay, thank you, Anita. We have a question about how would your voice as a woman on the commissioner's court and as an AAPI woman make a difference for the community when the commissioner's court is a nuts and bolts, on how this local issue position?
Well, it's a governing role because commissioner's court is mainly responsible for budgetary allocations and policy governance and ensuring tax dollars are allocated for different departments, different services that include public safety, security, and all the amenities and services that county provides to the residents. So speaking of the woman's perspective, it is time to sure the healthcare concerns are taken into account. There are trauma patients there. There are basic level of services offered in this county as we speak. County of this size needs advanced level of trauma care. When it comes to trauma patients, at this point, they're being delivered to distant hospitals, costing them thousands of dollars, time, and it increases their risk. Speaking of women, there are domestic abuse, sexual assault cases, and we need to make sure women are not left out of the equation. So healthcare is big. Again, economic growth, women are a big population of small business owners. We need to make sure they have resources. They have the tools and techniques to succeed in this economy. So speaking from just women's perspective, there's so many services and the needs that are unfulfilled, and that's what I'll focus on.
Great, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
That was Nita Sani, also on the Democratic ballot. And next we have a judicial race, Mr. Tony Wadhawan, who is running for County Court at Law number 2.
Hi, my name is Tony Wadhawan. I'm running for Judge of County Court at Law number 2 here in Fort Bend County. I actually have the opportunity of being the first South Asian male elected to a judicial bench here in Fort Bend County, but I cannot do it without my community. I'm asking you guys to help me make history here in Fort Bend. As a criminal defense attorney, I've spent a lot of time in our county courts. It's because our county courts are so heavily weighted in criminal law. Our county courts carry a 75 to 80% criminal docket, and that's including their juvenile representation, something I'm known for. I do a lot of juvenile representation in Fort Bend County. I've spent my days being attorney of the day, where we do a detention docket for our juveniles, and I basically have the whole entire list of the juveniles for that day. In addition, the reason why I'm running for County Court of Law number 2 is this is the Veterans Court in County Court, in Fort Bend, I mean. A lot of people don't talk about that, and it's because it's the forgotten program. The reason why it is a forgotten program is because the requirements for our veterans to get into these programs are so stringent that defense attorneys have stopped using it. Younger defense attorneys that are coming in right now don't even know about it. That's the first thing I want to do when I get on the bench, is release some of these stringent requirements for our veterans to actually enter our veterans court. And the reason being is the treatment that they can receive in these courts is not regular drug and alcohol education or drug and alcohol treatment. It is drug and alcohol treatment that is geared towards our veterans, especially those with PTSD or those who have received a disability while being overseas in combat. That's what our citizens here in Fort Bend deserve. A judge that can sit on this bench, review these cases on a case-by-case basis, and apply discretion, balance, and fairness where it's appropriate. That's the quality I'm going to bring to the bench. I've spent my career fighting against the overzealous assistant district attorneys that like to do nothing else but put our young juveniles on minority status in jail and throw away the key. That is why I'm asking for your support. My name is Tony Wadhawan. I'm running for Judge of County Court at Law number 2 here in Fort Bend County, and I would appreciate your support.
We appreciate your being here. Could you tell us why this judicial position would be important for the AAPI community if you were elected?
Well, I believe any judicial position will be important for the AAPI community. Like I said, I have the opportunity of being the first South Asian male elected. In fact, let me rephrase that. I have the opportunity of being the first Asian male elected to a judicial bench in Fort Bend County. It's 2022. That probably should have already happened. But me being elected to this bench is going to help further diversify our bench. Fort Bend County, we claim to be the most diverse county in the country, and we are. But let's prove it. Let's get our diversity on the bench. And that's why I'm asking for your support.
Okay, great. And what is your campaign doing to engage the AAPI community?
Well, I have gone to several temples, mandirs, gurdwaras. I was just at one this past weekend. Just today, I went to 2 different mosques. So I am trying to actually go to communities where, or I should say organizations, our temples, our mosques, places where South Asians are gathering, and I'm speaking to them. And I'm telling them the same exact things that I'm telling you guys tonight. My opportunities of being the first South Asian male or Asian male elected to the bench in Fort Bend County. My experience, which has been completely in these county courts, my law firm has literally been set up like our county courts since its inception. In addition to that, there are certain precincts that are predominant South Asian or Asian in Fort Bend. The new Precinct 3 is one of them. I have been block walking Precinct 3 and other areas like that. In addition, I've grown up here in Fort Bend. I'm a Fort Bend brat. I've been here from 1st grade through 12th grade, went off to college, came back, and now I'm raising my family here. So I've been reaching out to all of my friends, those that are my age, those that have children that are about to be the age of 18 or in their 20s. And I'm not only trying to engage the AAPI community, but I'm trying to engage the younger AAPI community, because they are our future. They are going to be the ones that are going to be coming into position to carry the stakes that we're trying to bring for them. We're trying to kick open these doors so that they can walk through them. And that is how I've been trying to engage with the AAPI community.
Great, thank you so much.
Thank you guys for the opportunity. I appreciate it. Have a good night.
And next we also have, we actually have an incumbent for County Court at Law number 3, Judge Julie Matthew. She was first elected in 2018. Judge Matthew.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Judge Julie Matthew. I'm the judge of County Court at Law number 3 in Fort Bend County. Being elected in 2018, I became the first Indian American woman elected to the bench in the United States and the first Asian American in Fort Bend County. I ran at a time when no one believed that Democrats can win, or no one believed a South Asian would be on the bench as an elected position, and to come out of that race in 2018 with the highest number of votes. I've been privileged to sit on the bench for the last 4 years and accomplished so many great things that I'm proud of, and has hopefully made my community proud as well. I created the first juvenile intervention and mental health court to help juveniles in the system who have mental health issues become successful and productive members of society. It costs more to keep someone incarcerated rather than help them become productive members. We handhold them along the way. If they don't have their driver's license, we give them teachers to teach. We give them counseling if they're having a problem in some area, or especially in school. We make sure that they successfully complete high school or their GED classes. We give them job empowerment, and I meet with them on a regular basis, as well as their parents, to hold them accountable for their actions. And if there's something that needs to be corrected, I actively get involved in it. I also hold the administrative judge position for the county courts. If there's anything that affects the county courts at large, I'm the one that helps resolve that issue. And I've been privileged to hold that position, has been elected by my colleagues within the last 2 years. This is my final term. I also sit in several committees and boards, including the Indian Cultural Center. And it's been my great privilege, and I want to continue to do the work that I've done over the last 4 years, and I need your help to get it reelected.
Great, thank you, Judge Matthew. I'd also like to note that Judge Matthew is running unopposed in the primary and has generously agreed to have less time than the other candidates, just as Melvin Adriatico did. So we actually don't have any questions.
Oh, I think if anybody wants to check out some of my stuff, feel free to go to www.judgejulie.com, and you can get more information about me. Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate all the work Engage has done.
Great, thank you so much. And this has been a coalition event with Engage, OCA Greater Houston, and other AAPI organizations. Glad to do this. So next we have Sonia Rash, who's running for a JP Court in Fort Bend in Precinct 3.
Hi there, I am Sonia Rash, and I'm running for your Justice of the Peace in Precinct 3. So just to tell you a little bit about me, I'm a practicing lawyer. I've been practicing about 20 years now, close to 20 years. I do civil, criminal, family all over Texas, but I also go into all these different types of courts, including the Justice of the Peace Court. I would say almost on a daily basis, not just for myself, but also for other lawyers and other organizations, including other law firms that hire me to do their work. Now, the Justice of the Peace Courts, they do your traffic tickets, they do your truancy, they also do evictions, and they do small claims court of $20,000 or less. I have a lot of ideas that I want to implement once I'm on the bench. But let me kind of go backwards and let you know a little bit more about my experience. I have 2 law firms, and I also, as I said, work for a lot of different other lawyers. But in my law firm, we do these type of cases that the Justice of the Peace does. So, and I have been doing this for almost 20 years now. And not only in state court, but federal court. I'm licensed both in state and federal court, and I have various certificates and degrees when it comes to litigation. But to me, more importantly, I tell people it's not about how many cases I've done or how many awards I've won. It literally is about how many people I've helped, and how many people I've served. In the Justice of the Peace Court, that is the people's court. Most people will come to the Justice of the Peace Court at some point in time for a traffic ticket. So I want to make sure that when they come in, that they feel that they are heard, that they are respected. This is a court where we want to make sure that people have an opportunity to speak, and they don't necessarily have to have lawyers when they come in. Of course, it is requested or it is advisable, but of course, as many of us know, when we get a ticket, we don't necessarily bring a lawyer with us. So some of the things that I want to implement is I do want to implement not only night court for our working families that can't make it during the day, but I want to have video conference hearings, or so that if you can't make it in, you're not able to take off of work, that there is a video conference hearing, kind of like what we're doing right now, to join in. Other things that I want to implement is for our young people to have internships for our young people, such as for our high school and our college students. I think that it's important for them to realize and understand what local government is really about. I don't think we get a whole lot of that information when it comes to our school. We do get government, but I think it would be advisable for us to get local government involved in there. Lastly, again, this is the People's Court. I want to be able to make sure we have outreach seminars so people understand their rights and what they can do and what they cannot do when they're stopped by police officers, or if they have evictions, or if they also have other situations in which they will be representing themselves. So I am Sonia Rash, and I'm running for your Justice of the Peace on the Democrat side.
Great, that was perfect. You ended just as I saw the time was called. So could you clarify a bit about your position, why it's important for the API community, and to clarify, it's not a county-wide position?
That's correct. It's Precinct 3, and Precinct 3, if you live in Fort Bend and are watching this, its majority is Sugarland. It is the outskirts of Richmond, which covers, if you're familiar with these areas, Aliana and Harvest Green. It also covers the outskirt of Missouri City, which is Riverstone area.
Great, thanks so much, Sonia, for joining us. And actually, shout out to all the Fort Bend candidates who are joining from their cars after coming from another forum after a long day. Like, we truly appreciate it. I'd also like to note that Ms. Rash is running in the Democratic primary, where Mr. Hussein Hadi is also running. He was invited but could not come tonight. Then last but certainly not least is Dr. Suleiman Lalani running for House District 76. We invited several of his other opponents in the Republican race, including Mike Khan, Ramesh Jariwala, and Dan Matthews, but all of them declined the invitation. So Dr. Lalani, take it away.
Well, thank you so much for the invitation. It is my honor to be part of this AAPI, Engage, and all the other organizations that are doing it. One of the biggest role of the representative is to represent their constituents, and that is one of the biggest reasons that I'm here, because I want to know what my constituents want and what their needs are. So thank you for giving me this opportunity. I am running for a fair representation that we don't have. It is well known that South Asians are changing the face of Texas politics, but where the legislation is made, where the laws are made, we don't have a seat on that table, and that's why we are on the menu. So we need to come out, and it's high time that we need to have the seat in there. It's not only just the representation and issues, it's also a lot of other resources that come down. So for example, financial, when federal and state money does come down, how much our community gets the funding and how much initiative and programs have come to us. So we need to have a representation where the decisions are being made. I'm a physician, been practicing in the area for 25 years, and I've seen the human face of our healthcare system delivery failure. What I mean by that is that we are in America, we have the world-class healthcare here, we have the technology, we have the research. World's who's who of the world can fly in and come to the world's largest medical center and get their treatment done. But our own people cannot cross the street to get the treatment. And that's what we need to change that. How many of us know people who are rationing their medications because they can't afford? How many of us we know that people who are, in spite of doing 2 jobs, cannot afford their health care? And some of them will end up in the emergency room from suffering from unnecessary complications that could have been prevented, and the sufferings. And we need to work hard. At that point, we'll be spending $200,000 in the ER doing all the workup rather than spending $200 giving them the medication and excess. So we need to be more proactive in healthcare. We need to make sure we expand Medicaid, billions of dollars sitting on the table that will give insurance to a lot of people. Texas has the highest number of uninsured in USA. Make sure we make prescription medication affordable for the people, so it doesn't become an issue of buying a groceries or buying the medications. When it comes to education, we are not very proud of our state in that regard too. State of Texas is on bottom 4th when it comes to public education funding. How long we will bridge that gap by a property tax? How long we will bridge that gap by having PTA fundraising? How long we will bridge that gap by teachers coming up with the supplies? Our zip code should not dictate the quality of education our children will get. Secondly, we have to give the authority back to the teachers where it belongs. We are dictating a lot of teachers what to teach. You know, as a physician, if 2 diabetic comes to me, I may not put them on same medication depending upon what other comorbid condition they may have. We had a lot of judges sitting on the panel. A lot of time, the judges will interpret law according to the situation. Same with the teacher knows the children well, and they need to interpret and be the judge of what the students are doing. We're focusing too much of test taking skills. If we want to do this testing, let's make it diagnostic rather than punitive. Let's do the testing in the beginning of the year to see where the child is lacking, and you have all 1 year to groom. Right now, the child is scared of the testing. The teacher is scared. The school is just scared because if they get a failing grade, their funding will stop. We are creating a lot of paper degrees, but we're not creating the leaders of tomorrow. So I'm running for healthcare. I'm running for education. I'm running for fair representation. Dr. Suleiman Lalani, House District 76, on a Democratic ballot, the right prescription for Texas. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Alani. We have time for just one question. In this past legislative session, we saw a lot of issues that affected minorities, including the AAPI community, get passed as legislation. Which piece of legislation passed this past session would you want to change, if you could?
Well, I want to make sure that we have a seat there, so we have the representation and we have the voice out there. And that is one of the big reasons that I've been endorsed by Jean Wu. I've been endorsed by Joe Deshotel, and Ron Reynolds is working with me in those regards. We need to bring the issues of our minority up there. I want to work on our healthcare issues because that is the #1 problem or issues that as if we have done polls on 10 biggest issues that people are suffering, healthcare is #1, healthcare is #2, healthcare is #3, education comes #4, then healthcare, then education, then economic, then COVID, and then so these are the issues that we need to work on. These are the foundation pillars that we need to work on. I believe a healthier Texas, a well-educated Texas is a stronger Texas for everyone.
Great, thank you so much, Dr. Alani. Well, that wraps it up for all of our candidates here today. I see many of them have stayed on. Thank you all so much for your time, for being here to speak to the community and answer our questions. And the audience members out there, we want to thank you too. We really appreciate that you've spent your Friday evening with us and that so many of you are still here at 9:09 p.m. when there are other things you could be doing. We so appreciate your dedication to being
Can I make one ask before you finish?
I suppose.
Sorry to interrupt, but I want to make one ask because you all are powerful people. You are running and you understand politics. Let's excite and engage our community. Only 7% of our South Asian vote and 93% suffer because of them. Let's empower You guys are doing a great job, but I think start knocking the doors. Let's put our slippers on, roll our sleeves, and get all the people out to vote. And then I make a humble request to all these organizations that you're doing a great work, but it's not done until it's done. So this is action time. Thank you so much.
Yes, I think that's a great point. As of now, fewer than 13,000 people in Fort Bend have voted for the Fort Bend people out there, and this is a county of over 800,000 people. We can do better. And as a quick announcement, we are having an AAPI Day of Action for Fort Bend tomorrow. Look out for an announcement in your emails if you'd like to join us to canvass for AAPI candidates. And again, this is the only weekend of early voting. So if you don't think you'll have time during the week, if you don't think your family will have time, grab them, make a fun day of it, go out to, look through your sample ballot and vote the entire ballot this weekend. Thank you all so much. Look out for an email from us and have a good night.